right, good evening everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Good. Well, I'm excited for this class. This is actually our first time, surprisingly, doing a class on sleep. You know, we've had some bits and pieces involved with some of our other classes we've done over the years, but I figured it's about time because like the most questions, hands down, that I get from people is, you know, what position do you sleep in? What kind of mattresses should you get? You know, things like that. So we're going to be covering a lot of that here tonight. And so that way, by the end of tonight, if you take what we're talking about and apply it, you'll be sleeping like this guy right here. So I want to start out tonight and just sharing a real quick story. So there's this older couple that really love to go on their Sunday drives. And so every Sunday that they would head out on their drive, they'd stop into this full-service gas station. There's not many of those around anymore, but at the time there was. And so they'd always fill up, get some gas, and go for their Sunday drive. And so they pulled into the service station. The attendant comes out, and so he starts, you know, filling the car up with gas. And when they're doing that, obviously they kind of go through and clean the windshield and do some of that stuff. And so he gets done cleaning the windshield, and the old man, he kind of looks over at his wife. He's like, pointing at the windshield, it still looks like it's dirty. And so he hollers at the attendant to come back over and says, "Excuse me, sir, you know, the windshield still looks like it's dirty. Would you mind, you know, cleaning it again just one more time?" And so the attendant says, "Sure, no problem." So he goes and cleans the windshield off again. And so he leaves to go take care of another customer. And the man's like, "The windshield, it still looks like it's dirty." And so he calls the guy over again, and he's like, "Excuse me, sir, I'm sorry to bother you again, but the windshield, it just looks like it's still dirty. Can you clean it just one more time, please?" And so the gas station attendant grabs the old man's glasses and takes those off and cleans his glasses and puts them back on him. He's like, "There, how's that look?" And he's like, "Oh, I can see now. It looks clean." And so I bring this up because the old man, his filter that he was seeing the world through, it wasn't the true reality, but it was the reality that I was seeing it. So our perception is not always the reality of the way things really are. And so because that was how he was seeing things, it was changing his action, which ultimately was influencing the outcome that he got, which for him, he didn't think that his windshield was clean. So I bring this up and kind of want to start off tonight with that story because right now, many of you are, I'm sure, are probably aware, our mindset and our beliefs are really being influenced tremendously by what we see online, the news, what we're reading in magazines or things like that, social media. And so, unfortunately, over the years, it's kind of transitioned, and just here in America, just in general, of any other nation out there, we take the least vacation time. It's always kind of all about go, go, go. What can you produce? How much more can you get done? Just being more, you know, more efficient with your time, but a lot of times that's at the expense of our health, especially when it comes to our sleep. And so that's what I want to maybe shift our perspective or mindset a little bit tonight, and really helping you understand that how important sleep really is for you and for just your overall health. And so we're going to be talking about that. A couple things. Number one is, how much sleep do you actually need at night? And that varies a little bit from, you know, with your age, how active you are. But what also happens to your body physiologically if you're not getting the adequate amount of sleep or getting, you know, good quality sleep. We're going to be talking about some of the common things that people are doing to address their sleep, whether it be taking over-the-counter medications, sleeping medications to kind of treat their symptoms but not really fixing the cause. And then we're going to go through 6 key strategies that you guys can, you know, really practical strategies that you guys can use and start to implement in your day-to-day life that really can dramatically improve your sleep on a nightly basis. So I just want to congratulate each and every one of you guys for showing up here today. That's, you know, kind of the first step in success is showing up. But unfortunately, knowledge is only powerful when you do what with it? You got to use it, right? So there's no shortage of, you know, information with podcasts and, you know, looking online or books, things. There's tons of information you can find out there about sleep, but as you guys are going to learn tonight, this is still a huge area that people struggle with, and so it's really kind of getting the right information, number one, but then also, you know, starting to implement that in your life. And so my hope today is that you guys can take what you're going to be learning, really start to apply this to your life, and that's really where it's going to make the biggest impact for you. So let's jump right in. So like I said earlier, one of the key questions I get on a regular basis is, how much sleep do I, you know, really need? And the honest answer is, like I said before, it kind of varies. So it varies on one thing, on your age. It also varies on another factor, being how active you actually are. So as you guys probably know, just looking at the chart here too. So usually, babies, toddlers, they're going to need and require a lot more sleep than your typical, adult, which usually needs about somewhere between 7 to 9 hours. If you're like a hardcore athlete or like a professional athlete, because the amount of stress that they're putting their bodies through in their training regimens, they're also going to require a little bit more sleep than the typical person. So usually they're, maybe somewhere between 9 and 10 hours, kind of on the higher end of that. So there's two key purposes in why getting the adequate amount of sleep is so important. Number one is at night when your body's sleeping, your brain is basically taking all the information that you're acquiring throughout the day, a lot of which you don't even know that you're even acquiring all these memories, a lot of these things that are going on. And it's kind of rebooting or kind of restarting the system and organizing that information, and so that way your body can run more efficiently. So it's just like, having to do updates and restart your computer so that way it runs more efficiently. If you don't do that, you keep putting it off like I do, then it clogs everything down. You find out your computer runs super, super slow. And that's what starts to happen with your body. It starts to affect your hormone balance. It starts to affect your immune system. It starts to affect a lot of these other systems in your body when your body isn't able to run efficiently like it's supposed to. So that is one of the answers on your sheet here. So it helps to reorganize the information that you're acquiring throughout the day. The other thing is that at night is when your body does all the healing and repair. So it's your body's anabolic state. So a lot of hormones influence your sleep, and so at night you have an increase in growth hormone and testosterone, which are responsible for a lot of the rebuilding of the cells and repairing damage that happens to your body throughout the day, whether it be sitting at a desk or exercising, whatever the case may be. Your body is basically healing at night. So if you're not getting the proper amounts of sleep, your body's always at a deficit, and it never really fully recovers and gets over that. So those are the key reasons why our body actually needs to sleep. Now, here's the sad statistics on how much sleep we're actually getting here in America right now. So only 1 in 3 Americans don't get enough sleep, so 30%. 1 out of 4 suffer from insomnia, 1 out of 5 sleep apnea. So basically in total, anywhere from 50, that should be 50 to 70 million. Yeah, it's a lot bigger than that. So 50 to 70 million Americans have sleep disorders. 40% of Americans are sleep deprived. So if you just look at some of the key accidents, environmental disasters that we suffered over the years, like the Exxon Valdez oil spill, like some of these things, when they actually look back and interview the people that were responsible, a lot of them were sleep deprived. Just medical errors in the U.S. right now it's the 3rd leading cause of death. And a lot of it is because of doctors, nurses, they need to work such long shifts that they're not able to get the adequate amount of sleep, and so it makes it very easy for them to misplace a decimal point or to do the wrong procedure, operate on the wrong body part. Sleep deprivation costs on average $411 billion per year, and 41% of Americans use some sort of sleep aid to get to sleep. So that is quite a bit. So when you're not getting the adequate amount of sleep like we talked about, your body is not healing and repair. So it starts to affect all these other systems. So it starts to affect your mind. So people have memory issues, sensory processing issues. It can even lead to, we'll talk more about it here in just a little bit, but Alzheimer's, dementia problems can start to happen. You're not getting the proper amount of sleep. It influences your heart. Your body isn't able to heal and repair. You're not getting that hormone response like I talked about with growth hormone, testosterone. So you tend to have a lot more aches and pains. Your immune system is dramatically affected. In fact, there's a study that they did. They haven't done it on humans, but they did a study on rats where they hooked them up to this contraption. So whenever the rats tried to nod off and go to sleep, they were zapped or whatever, and it woke them up. And so after just about 3 weeks of them going through this, torturous experiment, actually a lot of the rats ended up passing away. And the reason that they passed away is due to bacterial infections because their immune system was so suppressed because of that lack of sleep that it wasn't able to fight off, something that they would normally be able to fight off. So right now, just with the circumstances that we're going through, do you think it's a good idea to have a strong immune system? Absolutely, right? And so, we're talking about, all these other things to kind of treat the symptoms with the environment and wearing masks and, all this social distancing and stuff, but not much focus has ever really been on strengthening the host and, getting more sleep, eating right, doing these things that you really need to do to build your body up from the inside. And when we can do that, we're a lot better off. So you want to skip the sleep medications. So some of you have probably heard a few of these: Ambien, Lunesta, Sonata. These are very, very popular medications that people are taking, and every single one of these has a black box warning on them. So who knows what that means? So basically, the FDA puts these warnings on these medications because they have a great risk of something significant or causing significant damage. So these are some of the common side effects that can result from people that are taking these medications, which, number one, they're only supposed to be meant to take for a short period of time. 68% of people that start taking these things, they take them longer than they're supposed to, and they also take a higher dose on average than they're typically prescribed. So 68% take them longer and a larger dose. There's a 460% increase in all-cause mortality by taking some of these sleep medications. And part of the reason why there's a black box warning is because there's been incidents with people who are drowning. They get in their car and they start driving down the road and they don't even know that they're driving. They get in accidents. I mean, all these things happen from sleepwalking when people are taking these things. 35% increased risk of developing cancer. 51% increased risk of Alzheimer's if you use them for greater than 90 days. And here's some of the other side effects: headaches, depression, vomiting, dizziness, sleepwalking, like I mentioned. A lot of times people have severe allergic reactions to them, suicidal thoughts, and look at this, insomnia. So the one thing that they're supposed to be treating you for is actually a side effect of the medications they're actually giving you for. So it's just crazy. And you'll see that a lot with, same thing with antidepressant medications. One of the side effects of that is actually depression, more severe depression. So these things, while they can treat the symptoms sometimes, they're not really fixing the cause. And it's not a good long-term solution, as you guys can see. So what you need to understand is just how does your body work? And our bodies, many of you probably heard of, who's heard of the circadian rhythm before? So basically, you have these fluctuations in your body's hormone that causes it to be more alert and awake. And then in the evenings, it changes to different hormones, and that causes you to get sleepy and be able to sleep. Okay? And so the two main hormones that are responsible for the wakefulness and then the sleepfulness are cortisol and melatonin. Okay? So starting here in the morning, right around 6 a.m. or so, is when your cortisol starts to increase. And so that causes it causes more sugar to go into your bloodstream, so it kind of wakes your brain up, and it increases the circulation in your body, causes more blood flow. And so that starts to basically wake your body up, somewhere right around 6 a.m. And then, a lot of times people are eating a breakfast at that point, 7, 8 o'clock. And so now your body starts to produce insulin to help with the blood sugar fluctuation from eating breakfast. And somewhere kind of right here around mid-morning, and then this is where people have a spike in testosterone and have their peak alertness. So, so if you're scheduling your day, for most people, and there's an interesting questionnaire that you can take, and I'm blanking on the website right now that you can do it. I just did it, but it basically helps you kind of figure out what chronobiological, type of person that you are, and that way you can see like how to structure your day based on your biology. And so are you more like a morning person? Then you're probably going to want to schedule the more productive tasks first thing in the morning rather than in the evenings, because those type of people tend to be getting tired early because they're up early. So it kind of lets you know how to fill in your day based on that. So so one thing that's really good to do in the morning that also helps you wake up is doing some sort of kind of just light aerobic activity. So it would be going outside. Outside is best. Going out for a walk, maybe a bike ride. Doing something outside, especially when the sun's out. So right now we're moving into a time of year that probably won't see that until 7, 8 in the morning. But usually in the summertime, getting up early and in the sun, because that actually helps your body wake up, and there's a lot of other benefits just from being in the sun. So, but you're doing more kind of light aerobic activities to get your body moving in the morning is the best time to do that. If you're doing any kind of like higher intensity type of training or exercise, then you want to try to do that somewhere kind of in the mid-afternoon between like 2 to 5, because that's when your body tends to have the best recovery, responsiveness, just everything is working at a much higher level. So you're going to have a much more productive and efficient working out in that time frame versus first thing in the morning. And then that also helps too as you transition into dinner, because for a lot of people, dinner is one of their bigger meals of the day. So now if you're working out hard, then your body is going to be, you're going to be using up a lot of that, the sugar stores that you have. So your body is going to be able to break that down rather than eating a huge meal and going right into dinner, or right into getting ready for bed. Then your body's going to be able to store all those extra calories and that sugar as fat, basically, versus if you worked out right before that. So, and then as you transition into the evenings, then your body starts to shift into night mode. And so right around 9 p.m. or so, that's when your body starts to produce the melatonin. Okay, and that's your kind of sleepy hormone, and that's one that is responsible for helping you sleep. So at this point, right around here, we'll talk more about it later, but that's when you want to start kind of unwinding, getting off your electronics, and kind of minimizing those sorts of things, and not carrying that into your bed routine, because that's going to keep you up and really probably stress you out more. So 6 strategies to improve your sleep. So number 1, as we're just kind of talking about, has to do with the lighting in your environment. So first off, even before you get into your bed, you want to, like I said, an hour or 2 hours before you're going to bed, you want to get off the electronics. So turn off the TV, your phone. If you have, curtains in your room, try to get blackout curtains. Keep you want your room basically as dark as you can make it. Any electronics that you have in your room as well. So you want to make sure that you're able to dim those or just get them out of your room, because they're gonna really ultimately impact your sleep. So if you can use, a lot of people use like a sleep mask, which is really helpful as well. So the biggest thing is just eliminating those sorts of lights. And then in the morning, one of the things that I use, I have what's called a sunlight alarm clock. Has anybody heard of those before? So it helps to wake you up gradually. I had a really hard time with just the normal alarm clocks. It just puts you in a bad mood first thing in the morning. So the cool thing is about these sunlight alarm clocks is you can set them for whatever time that you want to wake up in the morning. And so for me, I usually get up, somewhere around 5:30. And so a half hour before you want to wake up, the light starts to kind of gradually come on. And so before my alarm even goes off, I'm already kind of basically waking up at a kind of gradual, more natural pace than just the alarm blaring off, when it's time for you to get up and, causes you to feel really crummy. So cut down on the electronics, and definitely, if you have a TV in your room, you don't want to be having that on, while you're getting, ready for bed, or bringing your cell phone in bed, which is what a lot of people do, and they're perusing through social media or whatever, and that's not a good time to do that. So that'll really stress you out more than anything. So second thing here is the temperature. So this is pretty important. So you want to make sure that your room is kind of on the cooler side. So usually 60 to maybe mid 60s is a good spot to have that, because when your environment and your room is cooler, then actually helps you sleep a lot more soundly. You're not waking up sweating and hot, and so you want to have a more cool environment. When in the fall or in the spring, it's nice to open the windows and kind of let some of that cool in.
I always like to have the window open at night. I don't care even if it's just an inch.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean,
the colder it is, the better.
The colder the better. Yep. Yep. There's also, so if you and your significant other or spouse kind of butt heads on that, one person likes it cold, one person hates it cold, there are some other options. There's these little what are called chili pads. You can get these like little mattress insert things or pads you put on your mattress that basically circulates cold water. And so the room actually still stays the same temperature, but because that cold water is circulating underneath you, it actually helps keep your body at a cooler temperature, and you're able to get a more sound sleep. So those are other options you can look into as well. Number 3 is noise. So try to minimize, obviously, the noises that you're exposed to. So if there's, furnaces or, definitely turn off your phone so you're not, hearing the text messages and things like that coming in. That shouldn't even be in your room to begin with because, if it is, make sure that you turn it on to airplane mode because those constantly emit what are called EMFs. So there's electromagnetic frequencies that are being emitted from that, and that actually affects your circadian rhythm and your sleep. So you want to be turn that into airplane mode, get that out of your room. But noise, so getting like a fan or some kind of like white noise. You can get apps on your phone if you are going to have your phone. Make sure, like I said, it's in airplane mode, but you can turn on the white noise. And that helps drown out any passing trains or other just kind of weird noises that you have that happen in your house sometimes that can wake you up. Eating for proper sleep. So this is important. So number 1 is you want to eliminate the late night, right before you go to bed, kind of snacking. Okay. So what that does, and unfortunately that's kind of when a lot of times people look to the ice cream or look to these other kind of post dinner treats that they enjoy. What happens though is that's going to spike your blood sugar up. And one of the things that can wake people up is in the middle of the night when their blood sugar starts to come back down, then your body thinks that it's hungry, so it kind of wakes you up out of your restful sleep. So eliminating that those kind of treats, especially like later before you go to bed, but also when you're with your dinner, not eating a lot of carbs. So eating keeping it more kind of low glycemic foods, so like sweet potatoes, meat, salads, things that are lower on the glycemic index, and so that's not going to spike your blood sugar up as well. And so try to finish up your meals, around 7 o'clock or so if you can, and that way your blood sugar is going to come down. It's going to help you sleep a lot more soundly. So some of the key foods to be adding more into your diet that can help your body produce more melatonin naturally are things like eggs. We all, know Thanksgiving produces, lots of turkey, produces a lot of tryptophan, which makes you sleepy, which is why I always take a, nap after Thanksgiving dinner. So turkey, chicken, meat, eggs, good quality whey protein's really good. Nuts, things like that are excellent things to be adding more into your diet because it helps you produce a lot of these good hormones. So it helps you actually produce more serotonin, and also, which is your happy hormone, and also produces more melatonin. So you kind of get a win-win by just changing your diet a little bit. So number 5, having a consistent routine. So this is a pretty important point here. So making sure that you're getting up somewhere around the same time in the morning and also going to bed somewhere around the same time in the morning. So for some people, I know this can be kind of challenging just with your work schedule. Some people, like nurses, we have a lot of people, nurses and stuff, that their schedule always is changing and, working in the nights and the mornings. So I get it, but you want to try to keep it as consistent as you can. Okay, so that helps to keep your body in that proper circadian rhythm and make sure that your body knows when to start making those hormones and when to start shifting into the wakeful mode. So a couple things to add into your bedtime routine. Is so you can do like some meditation. You want to basically try to calm your mind, and that's a key thing that really keeps people up. Is they're just stressed out or still thinking about what happened throughout the day, what they have to do to tomorrow, and they just got all these things just running through their mind. So you need to try to calm your body, your mind, your nervous system down. So you can do some meditation. One thing I talk to people a lot about is doing what's called box breathing. How many of you heard me talk about that before? So it's a really simple exercise that you can do. It's actually developed by the Navy SEALs to help their soldiers stay calm, like in the midst of battle and things. So you breathe in for about 3 to 5 seconds through your nose. You hold your breath for about 3 to 5 seconds. Breathe out through your mouth for 3 to 5 seconds. Then you just rest for about 3 to 5 seconds. So you just kind of go through that cyclical breathing pattern, and that And just close your eyes when you're doing that. And just do that for like a minute or 2 minutes, and you'll notice a big shift in your body's physiology. Kind of calms your mind. Try not to think about anything. So you can do that. You know, I do some journaling a lot of times in the evening before I go to bed. Just, you know, going to bed with an attitude of gratitude is really good at the end of the day. It helps your next day start a lot better. So just writing down, you know, 3 things you're grateful for, or, you know, some of your key wins or whatever, you know, for the day. So a lot of times, you know, people will want to pray or just do something that kind of puts you into that state, and you're not stressed out. You're not worried about, you know, what happened today or what's going on tomorrow, but just really calming your nervous system down so you can get a, you know, a good night's rest. And then adding in a lot of times people need some extra supplements, or they can use some essential oils that help to kind of facilitate that process with getting a good night's sleep. So a couple of the ones that I recommend, number one is vitamin D. So 75% of our population is deficient in vitamin D, and there's been a number of studies. There's one just kind of, it's what's called a meta-analysis, so looking at multiple studies, and they found that consistently people that are low in vitamin D had a significantly greater risk of, you know, sleep disorders. Okay. And so when people took a high dose of vitamin D over just, you know, like an 8-week period, their sleep problems improved significantly just from doing that. So right now, we're not in the sun as much as we used to. People's vitamin D levels really start to dip, which is why this time of year tends to coincide with when they call the flu season, because having adequate levels of vitamin D can significantly prevent the flu, but it also helps with getting the proper, you know, getting a really good night's sleep as well. So vitamin D, hands down, most people need to be taking that. So if you haven't had your levels tested, I would recommend doing that. You'll be surprised probably at what your level is. So anything below 20, and that's going to really dramatically impact your sleep. You want to be up somewhere between 60 to 90 nanograms per mole is kind of what you want to be shooting for. So,
does the doctor do that for you?
What's that?
Who does that, the testing?
Yeah, you can have your doctor do that. We can order you some tests if you want. If you do it through like a naturopath or a doctor, a lot of times your insurance might cover that. They won't if I order it for you. So, so you can try to do that. Yeah, and then just bring your number in, and then I can let you know what you need to do, you know, to help with that. So the second thing here is the healthy omegas. So this is super important because if you look at the pathway that cortisol is made, but also a lot of your sex hormones, those are the two main things that are significantly impacting your circadian rhythm. Both of those are actually built off of cholesterol. And so when your body is very, very, very stressed, guess what happens to your body's cholesterol? It has to go up because it's got to produce more and more cortisol to address the, you know, the stress levels that you're going through. And that also affects these other sex hormones like testosterone, growth hormone, affects these other hormones. And so you want to make sure that you're getting adequate amounts of healthy fats and cholesterol into your body, so that way your body can produce the adequate amount of those hormones. And one of the key things that happens, especially for people that start taking like cholesterol-lowering medications like statins, the common side effects of those are actually sleep disorders and also lower sex drive because it affects their sex hormones. Amongst other things, it increases risk of cancer, dementia, a lot of other things. So getting adequate, you know, levels of healthy fats is super important. And you also want to take some healthy fats in conjunction with your vitamin D because it helps it be absorbed more efficiently. Magnesium is another big one. So with the added stress that people deal with these days, people can really be depleted in magnesium. And so magnesium serves over like 300 different, you know, functions in your body. And one of the key ones is it helps to support your sleep. And so, so getting magnesium can really be helpful for people that struggle with sleep issues, but also if you have like restless leg issues or things like that, cramps, muscle spasms, magnesium is very helpful in helping to address those issues. So, so we have a couple. We have actually some cap ones, and we also have some spray magnesium which works pretty good. Both of them are phenomenal. The spray one, the transdermal one, can be absorbed a little bit more efficiently, but sometimes depending on how deficient you are in magnesium, it might kind of feel a little bit itchy. So it's good if you're going to be getting that one to use like some coconut oil or like a little bit of lotion before you put, or actually after you put the magnesium on, and just it helps with that. And then the last thing is the adding in some adaptogen herbs. So this is like a combination one that we sell here. So what are adaptogen herbs? So they're like things like ashwagandha, rhodiola, those sorts of herbs. And what they do is they help support your body's stress response. So they help to prevent these big fluctuations in blood sugar. They help your body respond to stress more efficiently and balance your blood sugar levels. And so, you know, just like I said, with the amount of stress that people are going through these days, this can really help your adrenals. It helps your body kind of calm down. You're not having those fluctuations. And it also impacts your, because of that, it helps impact your cortisol balance as well. So those are some of the key ones. As you guys know, if you've been to some of the classes, we always do a special discount for you guys just for showing up here. So if you're interested in any of those or anything else, we do a 15% off discount at the class. If you want to get 3 or more, then that saves you a bit more, so it saves you 20%. Okay. Well, your sleep position is kind of an important thing. We spend about a third of our life sleeping, so many of you probably wake up and your bed looks something like this. Actually, you probably add in a couple dogs and maybe a cat in there, and that's how you sleep at night. And so people wonder how their spine gets messed up or why they're dealing with this problem or that problem. And when you're sleeping like that, it can really impact your neck, your back, your hips, and kind of throws everything all out of balance. And so what I want to talk about here is some key points to help with your sleep symmetry and helping to actually support what we're doing here with you guys. And I can actually look at, a lot of times with people's x-rays, I can look at their x-rays and tell how they sleep, just how their hips are rotated, how they sit. Sometimes when people come in for their daily adjustments, I can look at things and be like, hey, did you sleep on your stomach last night? And they're like, oh, how did you know? I was like, well, yeah, your upper neck's way off here. And so these are the kind of the best, better, and worst positions to be sleeping in. So number one, ideally you want to try to sleep on your back if you can. Okay? And so the reason why that's important is that's going to help with maintaining that proper curvature that we're working on with your neck. If you are sleeping on your back, then it's also helpful to put like a pillow or something like that underneath your knees, and that helps to take some of the stress off your hamstrings, which can sometimes pull on your lower back and cause people to be uncomfortable when they're laying on their backs like that. But when you're on your back, so you have the pillow there, you ideally want to use your cervical roll under your neck if you can, because that helps to keep the head back over your shoulders where it's normally supposed to be, while helping to maintain that proper curve in your neck. Some people, I get it, for whatever reason, they just can't sleep on their cervical roll. And so the second best thing would be to get like a cervical type of pillow that has still that kind of that wavy curve in there to help to maintain that proper curvature that you want to have up there in your neck. So that's the best position. Now, the second best would be on your side. Okay? So the key things here is a lot of times when people are on their side, they're not putting the pillow between their leg, and so what they do is they kind of roll one leg over the other, and that causes a lot of torsion in your hips and also in your lower back. And so that's going to really cause rotation down there. It's going to cause imbalances in your hips, and that's going to be impacting you when you're walking, standing, doing those sorts of things. Things are going to be off balance and causing a lot of the problems that you have down through there. So you want to make sure your legs, your knees are together. You have just kind of a small pillow in between there. And then when you're on your side, you do not want to use your cervical roll. So you want to have a pillow that you use when you're on your side. And make sure that you talk to your spouse or whoever and have them check to make sure that the pillow is the proper height. You don't want it too small or your head's going to be leaning this way. If you have it too big, it's going to be kind of cocked up that way. So you want your head and your eyes to be right in line with your spine, just like this. So as long as it's in a neutral position like that, then that's another good way to sleep. Sometimes people, the more and more I research this, like there are some people that when they sleep on their back, they snore a lot or they have sleep apnea issues. How many of you have problems with that? Anybody? Okay, so there's a few people. So if that's you, then honestly, I would probably encourage you to, the more I've looked into this, to actually sleep on your side more, because the impact that that's going to have on your health and not getting adequate sleep because you're not getting the oxygen in is probably going to be greater than the risk that's going to be having on the curve. We can still work on getting the curve back when you're awake and doing the other exercises and stuff, but it's probably more important for you to be getting a good night's sound sleep, good sound sleep over being on your back if you're not going to be breathing and snoring and waking up your spouse, because that's going to cause whole other issues for you. So, but hands down, the worst position to sleep is on your stomach, because you have to cock your head one way or the other. That causes a lot of issues, particularly in the upper neck, but also down in the lower back area. So you don't want to sleep like that. So back or on your side. So when you are sleeping in those funky positions, what that causes, and what I can tell right away, is people have these subluxations in their spine, okay? So when you have a subluxation, that's when the spine or the vertebrae get out of alignment, and that damages the nerves, and that may or may not cause pain right away. A lot of times it doesn't. Only about 6% of your nerves actually sense pain. But what happens when those signals are shut down from the brain out to the body, if that's happening in your lower back, then those nerves go out to your digestive system, so it can cause constipation issues, it can cause problems with your monthly cycles, it can cause prostate problems, all sorts of things. If it's up here in your upper neck because you're sleeping on your stomach, well, those are the common nerves that go out to the eyes, ears, nose, throat. So allergy issues, sinus problems, ringing in the ears, headaches, all that kind of stuff can come from having these misalignments in the spine, and which may be coming from how you're actually sleeping. So our whole goal here, and you guys coming in and getting adjusted, is we're helping to correct your subluxations, but make sure that you don't continue to keep making them and causing them. And so in order for us to do that, then you got to be fixing how you're sleeping as well. But what happens when the spine gets out of alignment and you start to lose these curves, the brain can't get the signals out to those organs and out to the body, and things are going to start to shut down and malfunction. And so our body and our spine is designed so it's in a nice straight line. You want to have those 3 curves in it from the side, which is why we're talking about that's the position that you normally want to be sleeping in. And when your posture, in your sleep position, posture when you're sleeping, but also when you're awake, really starts to influence how well your body's functioning, because it impacts your spine, which ultimately impacts your nervous system. And over time, are you doing that, sleeping like that, working at a computer, then eventually people start to have these other symptoms start to come up. So headaches, high blood pressure, digestive problems, numbness and tingling. That's a big one that we see. A lot of times people say, oh, yeah, I got numbness and tingling, but it's only when I'm sleeping. It's probably just how I'm sleeping. Well, yeah, it's probably part of how you're sleeping, but because how you're sleeping, that's causing these subluxations in your spine, and it's going to keep happening. Those same nerves that go down in your hands causing the numbness and tingling also go to your heart, they go to your thyroid, they go to your lungs. A lot of other organs and systems can be affected by those exact same nerves, and so we don't want that to continue to go on. So I want to play this video because this really helps to emphasize the importance of what happens at night when your body is sleeping, and the importance of maintaining that proper cervical curve, especially. Real quick before I do that, did I miss any of the? Mattresses. Okay, so I skipped. Yeah, so let me touch on that real quick here. So mattresses. This is a question that comes up a lot. It's very difficult for me to recommend a certain mattress for each specific person because people sleep in different positions, you have different preferences. So I'll just give you kind of some of the brands that I found to be the best and a lot of our patients use and really like. So for me personally, I use what's called BioPosh, or we have some brochures back there. Both my wife and I love it. We've had it for several years now, and it's been really good for us. IntelliBed is another good one that you can get. That one is great, especially if you're kind of a hot sleeper, because it's got like a gel mattress or topper thing on it, so it helps to keep you cool at night. There's also Sleep Number has a good number of options as well, so that's good if you and your spouse differ on one of them likes the bed a little bit softer, they have just a different body type, versus the other person likes things a little bit firmer, so you can kind of adjust the settings on those, which a lot of other beds you can't. We have quite a few patients that have like the purple mattresses. A lot of times they really like those. The one thing that people often overlook with quite a few mattresses is that They also, if they're, they also have a lot of toxic chemicals that can come with them as well. So some of the common chemicals that they'll put on some of these mattresses are like things like flame retardants. In fact, for me to get a bed without those, I had to write myself a doctor's note to not get them put on to the mattress. So they have flame retardants. They use boric acid, which is like an insecticide, basically. They use antimony, which is very similar to arsenic, and they have just other things that like, why are they even putting this stuff in there? And so here we are, we're spending a good bit of our life laying on these things and breathing in these chemicals, and it can really impact your health in the long run. So so if you're looking at getting a new mattress, and if the company does offer options, I'm happy to write you like a letter to get one made without the flame retardant. So just all I say is that you just got an allergy to some of the chemicals that they put on there, and then they can make it without that. So pillows. So number one, using the cervical roll that you guys already have. The other pillow that I use for myself if I'm sleeping on my side is called the Proper Pillow. So it's the same company that makes some of the foam rollers that we sell here. And it's really nice because it has the little cutout for your head, so your head can kind of sit in there, but it helps to maintain the cervical curve. And then if you roll on your side, it's nice and keeps your head in a nice neutral position. And there's different sides depending on how broad your shoulders are, that you can flip it one way or the other. And so it fits most people pretty good. So Proper Pillow, there's the Chiro Flow pillow is another pillow that you can look into. That one's got it's got like a water interior in it, and then a memory foam on top. And so a lot of people really like those. So those are a couple options as far as that goes.
I didn't get your first one on the mattress that you said was good.
BioPosture. So there's,
Thank you.
yeah. So there's some brochures on it over there if you want.
I'm getting more and more people coming in complaining of brain fog, that they feel like they have like Alzheimer's and they're only like 22 years old. And they'll go to various doctors and they test them in their blood, food allergies, do MRIs of the brain or the neck, and nothing shows up. The cause of this brain fog, this mental decline, this emotional state, this dissociation, like not even feeling like they're a normal person. And I've even had patients describe it as a dumbness. They feel like dumb, like they can't find words. The cause of this is an obstruction of cerebral spinal fluid, and I liken cerebral spinal fluid as toilet water. Now, it's easy to understand how cervical instability can cause a decrease in the blood supply to the brain. Like this is the vertebral artery, and it's actually in the cervical vertebrae. Not only does there have to be a good blood supply into the brain, there has to be a good drainage system out of the brain. You might say, well, why is that? Well, basically, when you look at a cell phone or a computer and there's all that visual stimuli, that causes a lot of metabolic activity in the brain, and the neurons poop, basically. The neurons poop, or they have metabolic waste products that have to be removed from the brain. Imagine if the brain can't drain that toilet water. So that's why I call it brain toilet obstruction. If it can't drain all those toxins out of the brain, they're going to start damaging the neurons. You're going to actually get neuron cell death. And that neuron cell death and that pressure buildup in the brain starts destroying brain neurons and actual brain tissue. And we have, even in young people, showing that that there's hypoperfusion, or there's different parts of the brain that have decreased metabolic activity and is getting damaged from this obstruction of cerebral spinal fluid flow and the obstruction in the veins. The veins that drain the brain are the internal jugular vein and the vertebral veins. Those veins typically are obstructed in the higher part of the cervical region, especially about C1. So a person who has C0, C1, or C1, C2 instability basically is going to get obstruction of the brain venous lymphatic drainage. This causes an increase in the pressure inside the brain, and eventually it can cause brain neuron death. Fortunately, there's a treatment for it. So if we resolve the cervical destructure, we resolve the cervical destructure or the destruction or destabilization of the neck, and we get the neck curve good, and we resolve the instabilities, then there's the normalization of the flow of the cerebral spinal fluid, and there's the flushing, if you will, of the brain where the cerebral spinal fluid flow is normal, the blood supply is good because the cervical instability has been resolved, and the outflow of the fluids out of the brain get back to normal, and thus sometimes very quickly I've had patients even this past week where I've only been seeing them a month, 2 months, and already you could see the color back in their face, them saying that they are having joy again, they can have long conversations, they can read again, because there's resolution of the brain toilet obstruction.
All right, so kind of a funny video, but I mean, this is, what he's talking about here is spot on. So that's why one of the biggest things that we're working on with a lot of you is getting that proper curve back in your neck. And so the only way for your brain to flush out those metabolic byproducts and the toxins and the waste that accumulate throughout the day is at night, and that does that through the cerebral spinal fluid. So if you don't have that proper curve in your neck, it's just like the garden hose getting kinked, or somebody stepping on the garden hose. That material can't flush out through the veins, and you can't get the proper blood supply to your brain, and things start to build up there, and that causes a lot of these mental health problems, which is one of the things on here. It causes a lot of these mental health issues that people are dealing with. Could be Alzheimer's, dementia, ADD, anxiety issues. These sorts of things all kind of build up because the person isn't able to rid their body, rid their brain, and reorganize that stuff like they're normally supposed to if they have that proper curve there. So the main area that he was talking about is that upper part of the neck. And so when people sleep on their stomach, guess what area is impacted the most when they have to crank their head one way or the other? The upper part of their neck. And so that puts you at much greater risk of having these sorts of issues, and why we're really working at getting that proper curve back. So this is a patient. She's been coming in for 6 years now, and what he was describing was basically her. So before she started coming in here, she was having just tons of brain fog. She's forgetting things all the time. She was having problems sleeping. She was in constant pain, had a lot of headaches, and her husband, who also comes in here, described her as basically a hot mess. And so she started to go to a personal trainer, and he's like, I think your hormones may be out of whack or something. Why don't you go and see somebody about that? So she did. She went to her medical doctor, and they did a bunch of tests on her, and they ended up putting her on thyroid medication. They put her on, she diagnosed her as pre-diabetic, so they put her on medication for that, and they put her on bioidentical hormones. And so she was taking that stuff for a while, didn't really make her feel all that good. And her husband ended up hearing my radio show several years ago, and everything just kind of clicked for him. Like, hey, this makes so much sense. Your nervous system controls everything in your whole entire body. How come nobody's ever looked there? We've never had her spines checked. And so, so she ended up coming in, or both of them ended up coming in. And so we found out that she had lost a good bit of this curve here in her neck. And so we started working with her and getting this curve back. This is over, about 3 months, 4 months or so. And she saw about 7-8 degree curve increase with her neck. And like I said, she's been coming in for quite a while now, and night and day difference. So she's off all the medications that she's taking, hardly has any pain. She's walking further. She's lost a good bit of weight, just totally changed her lifestyle. She's sleeping better now. And what they were doing before was just treating and palliating her symptoms instead of really helping her actually get at the cause and really help her body heal naturally from inside out. And so this is her dumping some of her medications into our drug freedom jug there as she's getting off those because she doesn't need those anymore. And so that's what we want for everybody. And a lot of times people don't really know where the source of health and healing really comes from. It doesn't come from the outside, it doesn't come from these medications, it only comes from within. And so the very most important place for people to start if they're trying to get healthy is to have your spine and nervous system proper evaluated, because this is the master control system, okay? So what we do to do that is we look at your posture, we do a scan on the spine, we got to check and see if you have those proper curves that you need to have there, like we talked about here tonight. Those are very, very important. And then we come up with a plan if you do have some issues or do you have some subluxations to really fix those. And so that's going to help improve your sleep. That's going to help your energy levels, help your body just heal and function like it's designed to do. So if you're a guest here and you haven't had your spine checked before, we definitely encourage you to do that. In fact, since you're here, we always do a special promotion at these events where it's just $27 to come in and have that done. Usually it's about $210 to do that and have all those x-rays and everything that we need to do. So if that's something you want to do, then you can see the ladies at the front desk. They'll help you get that scheduled. The other thing, was this helpful for you guys here tonight? So on our, how many of you are friends with our Facebook page? I know a few of you are. So on our Facebook page, we're always posting other articles, videos. We have updates on these kind of events. Once we get these videos, Jackie is here. She's taping this. So once we get these videos made, we also post them up on those kind of platforms, our YouTube and also on Facebook. So if you guys ever want to kind of go back and review those, then that's a good place to do that, because we put all that information up on there. So if you haven't yet, I would highly recommend just liking our page. And then if we've already, since you've been coming in, if we've been able to help you in some way, maybe you're sleeping better, you're getting off medications, if you can just leave us a quick review, we'd really appreciate that. That's kind of one of the ways we get the word out there. A lot of people don't know that chiropractic can help with their sleep or can help them, with some of these issues like I was talking about with the other patient, Bev. So that's all I have for you guys there. Anybody have any questions before we kind of wrap this up?
Do you have a source to buy those pillows since they're part of the same company you use?
I do. Yeah. If you want one, let me know and we can order one for you. Yeah. Yeah.
Was that doctor speaking of like dissociation disorders? Dissociative disorders?
He, well, I don't know. What are you referring to?
So like there's dissociative disorders like derealization and depersonalization, where like the main symptoms are like the brain fog and really acute like memory loss.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what he was talking about. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming. Hopefully that was helpful for you. And we'll see you guys later.